This episode of the Bros of Gardening is sponsored by Proven Winners.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bros of Gardening, where today we're going to be talking about proven winners. We're going to be talking about our favorite proven winner plants, how we use them in the landscape, and just how you can design with them. And so, of course, we've got our host, my co-host, Daniel Van Dyke here with us. And then, of course, Alex is in the background. You won't see him, but you'll hear him. He'll guide us through this podcast. And we've got our one and only guest for the second time, Heather Wheatley from Proven Winners. Thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a great topic today.
Yeah. I'm very excited to talk about, obviously, Proven Winners.
Yeah.
I've been with them for just a couple of years, but they have been a constant in my career for a long time.
Yeah. Well, Thank you for joining us. This is going to be a great topic that we'll talk about a lot of different things here. So we're going to jump right into it. I'll give it over to Alex to kind of give us the first question and get us going.
Sure. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Since you're our guest today, can you tell us a little bit about what Proven Winner is?
Well, yes, I can. And I'm very proud to do it. Proven Winners is, it's a magnificent plant brand, but what makes it so magnificent is it really is proven. Right. We don't bring in plant material that we have not tested like mad. We don't torture them. Don't come at me. But we basically give them whatever. If you're going to be on vacation for a week and you can't water, what's that going to look like when you come home?
Right.
Well, we can tell you in advance.
Yeah.
And then plants that we bring into the market are usually avoid in the market. We don't see the quality that we're looking for, or they don't have the resilience that Proven Winners wants for the garden customer.
Right.
We want the success. We're going to prove it first, or it's not going to make it to market under our umbrella.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I think that's something that I've always appreciated. Again, sometimes when we're going out to a customer's house or a project, we're taking 100 to 200 plants out there. And if they're bringing us out there, that might mean that they don't want to spend as much time on it. So we're always interested in putting something in that's going to set them up for success. So, y'all's testing process and the fact that y'all, earn the title of proven, that means a lot to us because we don't want the customers to have a bad experience with the plant material. And,
sure.
we don't want them calling us and saying that this isn't performing or this isn't, the look we thought we were getting. So we really appreciate the fact that these do stand the test of time and they do stand up to, we always get that, we're going to water. Well, we're going out of town for a week, but we'll water. And it's like, well, then what, do you have a plan? So
Right.
Having plant material and things, it's funny you use that analogy because we get that a lot. But having plants that can stand up to these different environments, and really still thrive in these different situations, that means a lot to us because our goal is to set customers and people up for success so they're happy with the end result.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And tell us a little bit about your relationship with independent garden centers, because independent garden centers, I think, are the lifeblood of the industry for sure.
They really are. And that's where the heart of horticulture is. Each of your independent garden centers, they take the time to educate their staff and bring in our team, Proven Winners, to certify your garden centers and your staff. So not only can you install an amazing landscape, but you have a team that can help customers discover their own garden sense. They can install their own and be guided through it with well-educated staff. I think that is one of the best differentiators about independent garden centers is your commitment as a horticultural hub for your community. You're all in.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
in, which is fantastic. And we love partnering with you. So your staff knows exactly, what our plants mean and what they offer. But if there's ever a question or the customer doesn't understand something or they can just pick up that Proven Winner pot, and there's a phone number on there. They can call me. I'm partnering with you in your customer success. So it's a joy to work with independent garden centers because they're the heart of the work that we're all trying to do as land stewards. So,
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I would be remiss to say that I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but this podcast is sponsored by Proven Winners. Oh. So thank you all so much. And that partnership goes a long way with everything that we do. I know we used to test a lot of plants back in our growing days when we did that. Now we don't have to worry about it because we know y'all are testing them. You're putting them through all those trials. Our buyer actually goes and visits some of these test sites and some of the gardens and gets to actually see the plants growing in a natural or a a situation where you can at least see the full potential of a plant. Our marketing team has also been out there as well to some of the gardening sites and has learned so much about Proven Winners. And so really thank you for what you do for independent garden centers and for McDonald Garden Centers.
Transparency is an easy thing to offer.
Yeah.
And so we're delighted that you come out and you take the time and you want the best for your customers and you hold us to it. So it's great.
And we were talking earlier and you mentioned the hippo in the room.
Oh,
I thought that
hippo
was
in the
great.
room.
So I want you to tell everybody about that.
I don't think that's mine. I probably found it. I love Edward O. Lewis. I don't know if you've read his stuff, but he sticks with me. But the hippo in the room is something that Proven Winners considers in our sustainability initiative. So part of the testing that we do, we're looking for resiliency. We're looking for plants that work, that heal the land, that offer beauty, but also, promote biodiversity. And the biggest challenge against biodiversity is the hippo in the room, right? So habitat loss is the H. I is invasive species. The first P is population. The second one is pollution,
Right.
not just from population, but things that we could be
Sure.
Helping
homeowner
to
could
improve,
be.
yeah.
Right, exactly. And then the O is overharvesting or overuse.
Right.
So we've exhausted the land. How do we heal the substrates that we're left with? Here you guys have a lot of sand, so people like to bring in truckloads and truckloads of outside sources of substrates, but love the one you're with. What plants work well in sand? And I know that you all talk a lot with your customers about the site before you recommend plant material because you want them, as you've mentioned 1,000 times, to be successful. I mean,
Exactly.
that's your shtick.
Yeah.
For
That's your
sure.
high is to
And
get
not even the
them
partnership
happy.
with the independent garden centers, but with the growers too. I mean,
Right,
I
for
think
sure.
that's a great relationship as well. So it filters all the way from the top to the bottom to the consumer to the
yeah.
customer to the
Oh,
garden.
the
and-
test we put the growers through. So we scour, the entire country and only pick the best of the best growers because they understand. We have a matching ethos. We have a matching mission, vision, and values, and
Nice.
they know. Our phone number's on there, and we let them know
Yeah.
if.
And we know the white pot. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can see it throughout our garden center and many garden centers. And it's just so nice. And I think I love the diversity of the fact that you have house plants, you have edible plants from berries to vegetables, all the way to perennials, annuals, and trees and shrubs. So you're covering the gamut, and you just know that if you see a plant in that white pot, it's been tested and it's gonna serve
Yeah.
you well.
I know when I worked retail, like that, when I would be walking through customers and they were asking for certain things, when you see that white Proven Winners pot, I mean, that's always
Yeah.
to me was like, this is where we start because
Oh,
again,
that's wonderful.
that always kind of stands the test of time. And especially if it's a novice gardener or something, again, I always go back to that is trying to set them up for as much success as possible and making it as easy on them. If it's a pain for them, they're not going to want to keep gardening, or it could be a turnoff for them to gardening. So the easier we make it on them, the more success they have, the more they're just going to keep coming back and wanting to continue to do more and more of it.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
that
of
trust.
course.
We really do work
Absolutely.
to earn that. I promise you. We look for those pain points exactly that you're talking about before it gets in that white pot. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
trust.
All right, let's
Appreciate
get
it.
into some plants.
Let's.
Let's talk about some plants. Alex, you got a question?
Are there any plants that the industry is sleeping on? Ones that aren't popular but you think should be?
Oh, good question. Do I get to answer that
Yeah,
first?
you take it first.
You're the pro.
No. Oh, no. Well, obviously, Proven Winners has a list we're working on. We're always working on lists, voids in the market, things that we would like to see part of plant communities and things like that. And I think that there are always going to be voids in the market because passions and interests change from the customer. Environmental changes also
For sure.
make it necessary that different plants need to be brought into the market. Invasive species, things that are behaving poorly,
Right.
even after vigorous testing, need to come out of the market. We don't sleep on those ever. We are introducing a new seedless barberry, which I'm pretty excited
Very
about.
cool.
Oh,
But
wow.
we're always looking for those pain points. So things that we're sleeping on or that the industry is sleeping on, the lists are extensive, extensive. I have personal
And
favorites,
some you probably
but
can't share with us yet.
I could, but then you guys would go missing.
Yeah, good point.
And the community needs you. So we'll skip that list. But just know that we are working on those things. There are things that are missing in the market. We do have plant material that solve a lot of problems that the reason why they're in the market is people might be sleeping on, like ornamental grasses and ground covers that reduce the amount of weeding that you have to do. Some of the reasons the plants are there, we might be sleeping on some of the education, and we owe that back. But another thing that we're always working on. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I know one of my favorite proven winter plants that we like to recommend a lot of is the Lo and Behold Butterfly Bush series. Comes in different colors and things of that nature, but we just, again, always trying to find things that create these pops of color, are fairly low maintenance. And again, you picture a butterfly bush as this monstrosity. It can be 8-10 feet, but this series stays much more compact,
Super
much more
obedient.
manageable. And so you can get all the benefits of the butterfly bush in a much smaller space. You get the pop of color, obviously the way it interacts with nature and things like that. I mean, that's one of my personal favorites. And then the Arctic Fire series for the dogwoods, the red twig dogwood is another personal favorite that maybe a lot of people, you picture dogwoods, you're picturing the trees, but this is a little bit more of a bush. It can get a little bit bigger, but it's more of a bush form. It has that beautiful winter color. We always talk about trying to keep people's interest in the winter.
Yep.
That dark red, the
Love
stems are that dark red color. So even when they defoliate and they're bare sticks, it's still a beautiful plant. And so those would be two that I know of proven winners that we use quite a bit of that I think might be potentially being slept on a little bit. And again, they serve different and fit different needs. And so that to me are just two of the ones off the top of my head that I know I'm a big fan of that maybe a lot of people don't
And
know
great
about.
for pollinators
Absolutely.
and habitat.
Exactly.
So look at that list you just
Yeah.
made. I mean, people are lucky to be living near McDonald's.
Yeah.
And every year, Proven Winners comes out with new plants and new
Yeah.
introductions, and that's what I think is so cool. Especially because we've been in the garden center industry for more landscape, more retail for 20 years, and you've been a little bit longer than us. But that's sometimes it can get stale. Sometimes it's like the same old thing. But every year, Proven Winners comes out with new introductions, and I think that's what's so cool. And some of them are classics, like Forsythia. I think of Forsythia. And then you come out with a new variety that's got more blooms, it's more compact, it's all
More
of these
obedient, more
right.
resilient.
Yeah.
Yeah, we look at those pain points,
Yeah.
and you guys share them with us. We hear you.
Sure.
You are the consumer's voice. Not that the consumer can't just give us a call, because they sure can.
Yeah.
We love that, but you share those kinds of things that are important to your customer. So
Yeah.
resiliency and bigger blooms or more obedience, those are things that we think about every single day.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, like catmint is probably one of my favorites.
Oh, that's
I
a
mean,
nice one.
I think there's a lot of different varieties, and y'all carry a lot of different varieties, and they all do slightly different things, which I think is cool. I mean, it's low maintenance. It attracts tons of pollinators. I mean, it's
Drought-resistant.
absolutely amazing for butterflies and bees. Drought resistant. A great little shrubby kind of perennial, comes
Right.
back reliably year after year. So that's kind of one that kind of holds a place in my heart. And the fact that every year, a new introduction comes out, maybe not always in catmint, but in different ones, I think is what's really cool to me.
Yeah. So if we did bring in, for example, something, a new Nepeta or catmint, it's because we've found an improved variety or a better way of keeping it upright or obedient or shrub-like. We don't abandon a plant that's working. We don't just
Right.
introduce things for the sake of having the new.
Yep.
If the
If it
old works,
why change it?
Exactly.
Yep.
There was a lot of work to get that plant
Sure.
into that white pot. We don't abandon it just because we want to be new and different.
Yeah.
We're always looking, again, at those pain points, trialing them. I mean, basically kicking them down the road and seeing if it'll come back, because that happens, of course. But I so strongly believe that the more that your customers share with you, the more that you share with us, the more we can improve and bring in new plants into the market.
Right.
For sure.
For sure.
That's awesome. All right, Alex, what you got?
All right, bit of a controversial question here. Annuals are short term. Why invest in a more higher end product like Proven Winners?
Do you want me to answer that first?
Well, I can tackle it, or like I said, I know I have my
Because-
opinion.
Yeah,
but you go
well,
first.
I mean, gardens should be beautiful, and annuals bring that beauty and that color. I will say in my land stewardship heart of hearts, I know that they also bring in early pollinators, and they bring them in low. And for a lot of people who don't have a lot of space, the container is where those annuals thrive, and you can be 5 or 50 or 150. A container is an easy way to display those annuals, and they just make you happy.
Absolutely.
They really do. And there are some meaningful ones. I think in the landscape, when you drop in annuals, as long as they're hardy and they're resilient and they're good, you can use them as a ground cover.
Yep.
And you have less weeding. Water retention is great. It builds up humidity underneath the plant material. Annuals are good stuff. I mean, they're good stuff.
Absolutely.
I am a perennial girl at heart, but I do see why annuals are necessary.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is it all comes down, like a lot of times the driving force behind people gardening, curb appeal and just the, creating beauty within the garden. And, you're not going to find anything that's going to give you more color throughout its time frame than annuals. And, we had this bit of a debate from a low maintenance standpoint. We know what is low maintenance. Yeah, you have to switch out annuals every couple, 6 months or so, but at the same time, there's not a lot of maintenance in those 6 months in between. I mean, once you get them in the ground, they kind of do their own thing. You don't have to exactly. And so, and especially with the Proven Winners brand, again, setting them and picking those varieties that have gone through it again to create a little bit more of, you want them to thrive. If you are going to invest in a 6-month return, you really want your bang for your buck, like you said. And so having something like Proven Winners that is going to stand up and create and produce like you want it to, I think that makes investing in those even more important because at the same time, you do want to get the most return in that 6-month window. And then, you switch it out. And what I always like about annuals is you can be a little bit more creative. You're not putting something there and being like, I'm stuck with this for the next 20 years.
Oh, no.
So you can play with it. You can, and whether it's containers or, a small pocket of color in your bedding, in your landscape beds, whatever the case may be, try something different. If you don't know how it's going to look together, well, you got it for a couple months and remember next year you might want to do something a little different. And so I just like that you can be a little bit more creative, a little bit more inventive, and you're not marrying yourself to this same combination for years and years and years like you might with shrubs and perennials and things like that.
And the options. I mean, there's so many options
you
in
can
it.
paint with annuals.
And that's what I love with Proven Winners too is the options. I mean, I think of like the Million Bells, the options and all the different colors and then of course one that's my favorite that I don't know that this is why we got really into a lot of Proven Winners, but I remember, and don't quote me on this, but it's probably been about 8 to 10 years, a customer asked me for bubblegum petunia. And I had never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. I asked the buyer to look into it. He bought some. He bought enough to cover the customer's special order, but also bought a little bit of extra. We planted some. We used them. Customers loved them, raved about it. Bubblegum petunia is my favorite of all the petunias.
So nice to hear.
I mean, it is amazing in the landscape. It covers some ground.
That whole Vista series does a beautiful job.
They all do, but that one is just
it's an icon.
It's got a place there for me because
an icon.
it is just. And I'm a big pink fan. I don't know why. I love pink in the landscape. It's a color you don't typically get a lot of,
True.
in your trees and shrubs and different things like that. So I love saving a little space in the front landscape for a container or a patch of annuals because, like y'all said, I mean, you're not going to get a better color for it. So I'll pay a little bit more for a Proven Winner if it's going to perform for me and it's going to cover the space and do what I want it to do. So I absolutely love them. And I'll add into that those mixes. Those are some of my favorite things.
Oh, the recipes.
Where it's got the recipe all packed into one little pot. And you can plant them in your container, and it's just so easy.
No brainer.
And y'all do that so well with, I think, the education. And, you've got the flip books, and your website's amazing. So you can get all of these different designs and ideas. I use your website a ton when I go to teach like a container class. I'll go in there and start looking at, some of the different color combinations.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't have all of the plants. It'd be impossible to carry every single Proven Winner plant. But I use it.
Inspiration-wise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to piggyback a little bit off what you said, and the landscape with the bubble gum, here at our location in Virginia Beach, we used the Proven Winner bubble gum in the landscape, and I don't think it was any coincidence that we got more compliments on the front landscape. I mean, that pop of color.
It's dramatic.
It is, and I mean, you're driving by at 50, 60 miles an hour, but you're going to see this just blanket of blooms, and it bloomed for so long, and it performed so well, and I know they were all, it was a mix of two different of the bubble gum.
Silverberry Vista.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful combo.
Yeah. So it was a very interesting combination, but they did great. And like I said, we got more compliments on that this year than we have. And this is the first time we've really used those in the color change here around the store as well. So.
And then the Proven Winners fans, when they drive by, they know, that's a Proven Winners destination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they make a note. They drop off the groceries and skirt back.
There you go.
So certainly not a controversial question. I think annuals are great.
No, that's right.
I think you should invest as much as you do into, we always say into your soil as you do into your plants. But, knowing that you're going to get something that's been tested, I think is super, super important. And I absolutely love it. So you want to do one more quick question? Let's do a real quick round robin of what is your favorite Proven Winner plant? I know. I'm going to do it to you again. We did it to you last time. You got to pick one.
We were friends. Oh my gosh, I have to pick one.
You got one that you can
go
with?
first.
Yeah.
So I already mentioned. So I'm going to cheat since I've already mentioned the Lo and Behold series. I won't use that one, but that's a great one. But the Incredible Hydrangea is just a staple to me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a statement again? We're a little bit more shrub centric and on the landscape side, and that just, the bloom head on that hydrangea, it's a showstopper. And so you can get such a pop of color all summer long, and it's a beautiful one. Again, fairly easy to grow. It doesn't cause you a lot of issues or any problems. I mean, it just, again, bang for your buck. That's hard to beat from my point of view. So Incredible Hydrangea would be one for me.
Have you ever dried one?
I have not.
You cut them, they last so long dried. Yes.
I've never done that.
Now that's an investment.
Okay.
I put my sunglasses in one of them because it's such
adorable.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
it's like the size of somebody's head.
Good plan. Good plan.
I'll go and let's see. I'm going to go with Kufia. It's a weird one.
Oh, nice.
The Millionaire Kufia is such a cool pollinator plant. You don't see a lot of it. Orange is kind of a hard color sometimes to get. It's low maintenance. It blooms nonstop in the summer. It's an annual in most places, but I absolutely love it. It's a great centerpiece for a plant. For a container garden. So if you're making a mix of different types of annuals, it's just a really cool one. And it blooms like all summer long, and it loves it hot. And it's just a really cool plant. Unusual kind of hanging trumpet shaped flowers. So just something different.
Yeah, the hummingbirds love that one, and the hummingbird moth or the sphinx moth.
Yep,
they love that too. That's a great attractant for those.
For sure.
Okay. If my arm has to be twisted today. Yesterday was something else. Tomorrow will be something else. But today, I'm kind of mad for the Mangaves, the Art and Soul collection.
Okay.
There's one called Lavender Lady. Oh, it's so decadent and elegant.
That's so cool.
And it's super unique. I mean, I'm so excited about the entire Art and Soul collection, but that one, Lavender Lady, probably my favorite. Awesome. But don't tell any other plants.
All right, we won't let them know.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Heather, again for joining us.
It's the best time.
It's a great talk. Thank you for sponsoring to Proven Winners, sponsoring this podcast.
Absolutely.
Next week, Daniel and I are going to have a little bit of a battle. We're going to be going at it. We're going to maybe do a list of our top 5, but we're going to be going against each other on our shrubs. That's where we started. It's our bread and butter. We're going to talk about our favorite shrubs and kind of have a little battle out of talking about what our favorite shrubs are. So we're going to see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Bros of Gardening podcast, and we'll see you next time.